What is up, everyone? Welcome to Level 7. We got a very special edition case files version of the Agents of Fandom podcast. We are joined by my fellow Canadian, Lenore Zann, the voice of Rogue from X-Men. Lenore, how are you doing today?
Hello, I am doing well. Thank you very much. I'm over here on the East Coast in Nova Scotia. Where are you?
I'm in Saskatchewan, so I'm middle and a bit to the west. I was doing my research and I found out that you very shortly may have lived in Saskatchewan as well. So we'll dive
Yeah,
into that.
sure.
I was so excited about our guest, I almost forgot to introduce my co-host as well. As always, I'm with Garrett Blaney. How you doing, pal?
Oh, I'm good, and I am completely not as important, so you can just skip past me for this one. It's all good, buddy.
Everybody's important. There are no small parts.
We are going to do our very best to stay on task, stay focused, but we're fanboying a little bit if we're being honest. We're both huge fans of X-Men the animated series. I got my Rogue Funko right here. I
Ah,
got my Gambit and Rogue figures
right.
right here.
I've
And
got
so
those. I want
yeah, very
to.
big
Yeah,
fans.
very cool. You don't have my autograph on that pop yet, though. I see.
Not yet. So
Yet.
yeah, so that's the big key. We'll have to make it happen.
We will.
They we've been getting press passes at some expos throughout Canada lately, and so next expo that you're at, I'll definitely make sure I'm coming through, and
That would be
we'll
great.
get that set up.
That'd be great. Yeah.
And I'll only be a little bit jealous from America.
Where are you in America?
I'm on the West Coast in California.
Oh, you're in California. Okay. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be coming out there, I believe, in December. I think I
Okay.
might to
What part?
The LA Comic Con.
Well, LA is kind of right around my area, so maybe I'll have to set
Oh,
something up to go there and meet you there as
yeah,
well.
sure. That'd be great.
So we have a ton of X-Men the Animated Series fans in the chat, and
Right.
throughout the 90s, this is a show that just made so many people fall in love with the characters. What is it about Rogue specifically that made you want to keep identifying with that character for so long and keep her as a part of you?
Well, when I first auditioned for the role, I wasn't really a well-known, and I didn't really have much experience yet in doing animation and doing like animation voiceovers. I had done commercial voiceovers, and I had done movies and television and theater and radio. But the I didn't realize that the show was the X-Men, nor would I have known what the X-Men was if somebody had told me at that time. So I actually skipped out on the first auditions for the show back in the 90s. And then my agent called me and said, Lenore, they're still looking for a woman with a deep, husky, sexy voice who can do a southern accent for this one character. And the reason they haven't found her yet is because it's you. I know it's you. You have to go in on her. So I went to the callbacks. And when I saw the drawing, cell of Rogue, just her signature position with her hand on her hip and a kind of an attitude, I said, oh, I can play this. This is me. So I just threw on the southern accent and I did like the first line, which was, "My daddy liked to kill himself when he found out I was a mutant." You know, and and away we go.
This is a little bit surreal to hear in real time for me. How about you, TJ?
Shivers, the southern drawl mixed with the raspiness. That's Rogue. I've been listening to that character for my entire life. So yeah, this is pretty darn incredible. When
Yes.
when did you find out about X-Men 97, that you were going to be a part of it, and that, like, when how did that all work out for you?
Well, we did the original show 30 years ago, as all the fans know, from like 92 to 96. And then I kind of put it out of my mind because, life goes on, you're doing other shows. And we really had no idea how popular the show was until we were invited to a Comic Con, actually in LA, 2019, I believe it was. And there were like maybe 100,000 people there. And the reaction that we got when we walked out on stage, it blew our minds. There were about maybe five of us there, the original team, and it was like, what's going on? And we had to be told that the show had become one of the top two animated series of all time. We had no idea. And so fast forward now, we had the pandemic and all that stuff was going on. There were no more Comic Cons. I had also, by the way, gone into politics these last 12 years. And so I wasn't really acting very much because my main focus was on my day job, which was to be an elected representative of the people of Nova Scotia and Canada. But I won like one, two, three. I won four elections in a row, which equaled 12 years. And then on my fifth election, I lost, and that was a year ago, September. So let's just say I was pretty depressed. I was pretty sad and depressed, and my sweet little niece, Maya Zann Rowland, had just died of cancer, and that was really hard. She was 17, and
Wow.
it just broke my heart and my family's heart. And then the election was called right after she died, and I lost. So it was like just one big grief after another.
I'm so
Um,
sorry.
thank you so much. I mean, childhood cancer is such a beast. I mean, cancer itself is terrible, but when
Yeah.
it's children, it's so
That's
hard.
yeah. It doesn't get worse than that.
I know. So, so I kind of fell apart for a few months, but during that time, I got a message saying that there were some folks in Hollywood who were thinking about maybe rebooting the show, and they wanted to talk to me. And so, to cut a long story short, it was legitimate. Once I found out it was legitimate, then I said, sure, of course, I'm interested in suiting up and showing up as Rogue again. And so they had me do a little audition. It was basically lines from the original show. So, of course, I remembered them as soon as they came. I was like, yeah, I know how to do those. And then I met with Bo DeMeo and Jake Castorina and all these other folks who are working on the show, and the casting director who is now directing it, Meredith Lane. And they booked me. And so 30 years later, here we are, and the X-Men came to save my butt. And I'm so grateful.
So are we. Trust us. It's a
The
little funny to
universe.
me. Sorry, TJ.
You go. You go.
It's a little funny to me that they would have you like I know it's like a formality, but to like re-audition, because let's be honest, no one's doing it better than you, Lenore. They're not
Thank
getting anyone better.
that. But I guess, for them, I mean, it's protocol for one thing.
Yeah.
And for another thing, they probably wanted to make sure after 30 years that we sound the same, right? Because
Yeah.
some people don't. So, they've been really, really good. They have hired the original cast of the main team of the X-Men, um, the ones of us who are still living, right? Because poor Norm Spence, who played Cyclops, is gone, sadly. And a couple of others. David Himblin, who played Magneto, he's gone, and others. So they are bringing us back. Now, some of us are playing the same roles we played because our voices sound the same. Some are playing other roles because their voices have changed.
Wow.
And Jubilee is supposed to be an Asian American character, and so Allison Court won't be playing that role because she's not Asian American, and she's fine with that. She's happy because she said, "There's no way I should play that role now," and so she's playing something else. So it's pretty cool. We're all back. Some of us in the same place and positions, and others in others. So you'll find out when the show comes out who's doing what.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
That's so incredible. The universe works in mysterious ways, providing such a cool pick me up after such a difficult time. And
Yeah,
we're going to touch more on your career in politics and activism and stuff like that as we go on. Um,
sure.
but something I want to know now, you brought up all the people coming back. What was it like getting back in that booth? And were you able to have any recording reunions with your former castmates? Did you get to do any recording with Tony Daniels as Gambit, was that all kind of working from different places so far?
Well, we're all in different cities. So the one good thing that the pandemic has done is has shown studios that you can actually have actors in different places and they don't all have to be in the same city to record. Originally, we all were in Toronto for that first show, that first series, but we are all spread out now. So, no, we we got together for the first time in 30 years, thanks to Mike Perez, who put us together to do a Comic Con in Texas like 3 years ago. So we had a kind of reunion of sorts then. And then we did a couple more. And as I said, we went to LA. That's where we found out how popular the show really was. And then, and then we went to New Orleans and then everything died because of the pandemic. And so none of us saw each other. None of us talked to each other. When 97 came about, we all signed non-disclosure agreements that said we couldn't really talk to anybody or each other about what was happening or what our agreement was or who we were playing or anything. But a few of us did get together before we signed the contract to just sort of run through some lines. And so, like George Buza for Beast, he is also back, and that's known. He and I, and Cal, for instance, Cal Dodd, we practiced our lines together. And Chris Potter, who was the original Gambit, he was before Tony. Tony came in towards the end, but Chris Potter came in, and we rehearsed with him. We also rehearsed with Allison Seeley Smith, who was one of the voices of Storm. That role changed several times. Different women played that role, uh, and so that gave us a little bit of a lift. Byron Burton helped us do that, who's one of our other people that we work with on for the Comic Cons. And as I said, thanks to Mike Perez and to Byron and others, we kind of were primed, and we had to do our auditions separately, and then we had to do it on Zoom with the producers there, and then we found out who's doing it and who's in it together, and so of course we're pretty excited. We haven't really had a reunion of sorts since it's happened. That's going to happen in Grand Rapids, Michigan, in November. We're going to be coming to the Comic Con there, and there's quite a few of us who are going to be getting together and at that Comic.
That's going to be really fun. I have to
Yeah,
ask real quick because you brought up Chris Potter, and I saw in our chat someone had asked a question about Chris Potter. It's not the most in-depth question, but they're an agent of fandom, actually, an author for our website, and
yeah,
he's a very big Gambit fan. And so he asked, "How awesome is Chris Potter?"
he is awesome. He's on television, right? Chris is one of those actors who, when we first did the show in 30 years ago, he was on, I guess, was it Kung Fu or Karate Kid? One of those shows, with David Carradine. This must have been
I
Kung
think that was
Fu.
Karate Kid.
Was it Karate Kid?
I
Okay.
think so. I'm not sure though. I could be wrong.
Yeah, and he played the young guy
Uh huh.
to David Carradine's older, wise, samurai or whatever. And so he felt a little intimidated by some of us at that time because we had a little bit more experience in everything in other shows and stuff than he did. But he was fantastic. And they played around with his accent. They tried to get him to do more of a accent and then less of an accent. Like they really played with him a few times to get it to the point where it is now in the recordings. And and he ended up doing two more television on camera series after the original, that one, the Kung Fu or Karate Kid. He did Silk Stockings for a number of years out in LA, and then he is now doing Heartland, and he's been on that for 16 years. So that show is
Wow.
I've been doing, yeah.
I have confirmation from the chat. It was Kung Fu, not Karate Kid. So I
Thank
was
you.
incorrect. But I'm sure looking back on that situation where he maybe was feeling intimidated by everyone having so much more experience than him, looking back on it, I'm sure now he sees it as like that was the best learning experience possible, because I might not have been the best version of myself, but all these other people had so much wisdom and experience to offer me, and that shaped who we now know and love as the character, because it's pretty iconic. So
Yeah,
it may
he
have been intimidating at the time, but it ended up being perfect.
yeah, and he oftentimes tells the story of how Norm, who was Cyclops, was a voice guy, and he could imitate all kinds of people. So can Cal, actually. Cal is an excellent imitator. Actually, so is Tony Daniels. um, but whenever a new character would come up, and the producer or director would say, oh, is there any of the guys want to try this role, President so and so, or this, that, or the other thing, Norm would always put up his head. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. This kind of thing. So every time when Chris was doing his lines as Gambit, Norm would look over at him and go, "You gonna do it like that? Huh? You're gonna do it like
Yikes. Like the classic is, you're gonna wear that tonight? Like that's what you're gonna wear?
Yeah, he would like freak him out. It would make him feel so like intimidated.
Oh my gosh. Like hazing the new guy.
Yeah, like, oh, you're out. Let's bring Norm on to that role too. Oh my God. But we used to have so much fun because we did it all in the one room in the beginning. So all of the actors were in a circle like a radio drama. And so we got to see each other and hear each other, and kind of make fun of each other too as we went along. I mean, we had a blast. And, Larry Houston, who was the art director and director for the show, he said recently, the reason that worked, it was like lightning in a bottle. We all came from these different places, but we came together, and it was just like lightning in a bottle. And that's what we're hoping the new show is going to be as well. In fact, I feel like it is. I'm very excited about the team that's working on it.
Well, the cast, the crew, all coming together from different walks of life, different places, different perspectives. That is the X-Men. And that's what makes the X-Men a story that so many people love and identify with. I know me personally, when Disney Plus was announced, yes, I was excited about the prospects of all these new shows that were going to be dropping, but the biggest reason I was excited was X-Men the Animated Series and Spider-Man the Animated Series. Those were the big reasons I was so excited for the launch of the app, was to go back and watch these shows. And
Nice.
it's X-Men, and their stories have been compared so often to the civil rights movement and so many other just different fights for equality, because that's what is entrenched in the X-Men storylines. I'm interested how much of that kind of like stuck with you and helped launch your kind of political career. Like, did being a part of those stories make you want to be a part of making change for the world in real life as well?
You know, um, most cartoons that were on at the time were kind of children's cartoons, and they hired voice actors who had kind of a cartoony sound, for want of a lack of a better explanation. And they tried that with X-Men, like with just voice actors, and it didn't work. And so then they hit on the idea, okay, well, let's hire theater actors to do it. Let's try out theater actors, because theater actors are used to doing, Shakespeare, and just being more sensitive to like the dramatic pauses and the moments and the depth that's in there, and not just going for laughs or whatever. And so that's when they asked to see all of us, because all of us had started off in theater. We were in movies and television and whatever, and we weren't known as voice actors, other than, as I said, like Norm and Ron Rubin, who played Morph. He was a very successful voice actor at the time as well. So, and Cal did a lot of singing. He did a lot of like licks and singing in commercials and things like that. So when we got the scripts, we would read the scripts, and we could see that they were clearly a lot more to them underneath the surface. There were so many layers of story and what it's really trying to say. And that excited us, those of us who were, like serious actors. We could really get our teeth into it, and we could just, chew up the scenery when it was our turn, when it was a show about our character. And so I've always been like that, and I've always been be politically minded. I've always been interested in politics. I've traveled around the world when I was doing the different shows I've been in. And I always take time to stay in the place and learn about the customs, the culture, the religion, the spirituality, the politics, what makes a country or community tick. That's always been my interest. And so that's another reason why I loved this show. And to be honest, yeah, I didn't go into politics until much later, like 20 years later. It took me 20 years to get around to going into politics.
Oh, you're muted on there, Garrett. But as a fellow Canadian, I'm happy that you have gone into politics, and I do remember following the last election, the fifth one that didn't go as well, and I was very sad as well. But I'm
Thank
happy
you.
it's allowed some extra time and presented you with this opportunity. And
Yeah.
if you want to come through to Saskatchewan, I'll be your biggest supporter. We'll go door to door. We'll get some things
Thank
popping.
you. Well, that's nice to know. Yeah, I loved Saskatchewan.
Me
Rough Riders.
too.
Oh,
I
Rough Riders.
actually I actually just went and visited TJ up there, and I actually loved it a lot more than I thought I would. It was beautiful. It was it
Yeah,
was it was
it really
not
is.
it was a lot slower than California, than life is here, but it wasn't as slow as it was in the South in Alabama when I lived there. So it was like the perfect pace for me. I loved it.
Nice. Yeah, Regina's a nice city too. I don't know. Did you say, are you in Regina?
I'm Saskatoon, but
Oh, you're in
I did see
Saskatoon.
that your family had lived in Regina
Yeah.
initially. I've been just claiming the whole province ever since Tatiana Maslany was cast as She-Hulk,
Uh,
since she's from Regina, and so
it is.
that's yeah. And so I've been pumping up every Saskatchewan every chance I get.
He
Wow.
does.
And then you've got Lily, what's her last name that plays Wasp, that was in Lost. She's from Calgary, I believe.
Evangeline Lilly, yeah,
Yeah,
is from Calgary.
Evangeline
Yeah.
Lilly from Calgary. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Interesting.
Canada's represented pretty well. We got Amon Villani. Ms. Marvel is also from Canada.
Very true.
Um,
We've got
Cast.
Chan Chan, the new Chinese superhero.
Oh,
Oh,
Shang-Chi,
Shang-Chi,
Simu Liu.
Yeah.
yeah. Simu
Yeah.
Liu
We've got him.
is Shang-Chi is Canadian as well. Yeah, we got the whole squad cooking here.
Oh,
Yeah.
even
Um,
Ryan Reynolds.
Oh,
Ryan
a big
Reynolds.
one. You can't
Yeah.
forget
and
Ryan
Hugh
Reynolds.
Jackman is back now too.
Who? Oh yeah. Well, he's Australian.
Yeah, but that's just like Wolverine, X-Men. It's got me excited. With Hugh coming back and X-Men things popping in the MCU, did you ever have an idea of maybe giving somebody up at Marvel a call and saying, "Hey, I've been a part of the X-Men for a long time. Get me some kind of role in here."
Well, let's put it this way. I'm sure if something came along that I would be right for, at my age and the way I look and all of that, then I would hope somebody would think, oh, maybe we should give Lenore a call. Or if I heard about it, then yeah, sure, I would make that call. I mean, I'd love to maybe play like Rogue's mother or something, because she was supposed to be like a blonde hippie. She had long blonde hair and was a hippie.
I love
And
that. I can already see it.
they lived in some made up place in Alabama. I found out even just recently, the place itself doesn't really exist. It was a made up name, but it's in Alabama. And so
Interesting.
yeah, so I would find that kind of fun.
I
Or
so
So
Or if they did green screen for Rogue and they made her like an avatar type thing, then I could do the voice and,
Oh,
but
we love all the possibilities. I real quick, I'm gonna shout out a question from the chat before I forget. But what is your favorite X-Men episode? This comes from Thomas Greatbanks, who is in Australia, coming from Australia, watching this live right now.
G'day, mate. How's it going? Give my love to Sydney. Well, kind of naturally, my favorite one is A Rogue's Tale.
Mm,
It's it's her origin story, and it was when I got that script, I was so excited because it's like, great, I can really put all my stuff into this, and I did. I love that one. I also love The Cure, the one where she tries to get rid of her superpowers because she wants to be normal and
mm.
fall in love and, like everybody else, maybe have children. And then she realizes that her superpower, which she's kind of hates herself for, is what makes her unique and can help her save the world. And that's when she says, there ain't no cure for who you are. And I really like that. I think that
Yeah,
It's
speaks
the
a lot.
layers.
Mhm.
It's the layers to the X-Men scripts that you talked about. It's on the surface, it's a superhero figuring out that she likes her powers, but beneath that, it's stories of how we can appreciate ourselves and love
Exactly.
ourselves.
Right. And
And
the
so,
LGBTQ community has really embraced that. Like many people have said to me that helped save them and helped save their lives when they were in school, when they were younger. They were either bullied or they didn't like themselves or they didn't fit in or their parents were abusive or they were afraid to come out. And they said that like our show was their safe place, it was their safe haven, and to hear those kinds of messages was so important, especially way back then.
yeah,
and it's a show that kind of tells people if you don't fit into the status quo, that's not just okay, it's a good thing, it's to be celebrated.
Right.
And it's so great that you've used your platform to get into politics, help trying to shape the world into a better place. We hope we get more of these types of stories and scenes and moments in X-Men 97. But looking past that, what are your kind of future plans for whether it be getting back into politics with the Liberal Party, the NDP party here in Canada, or just maybe your own exploits into kind of making the world a better place?
Well, right now I'm focused on a couple of things. I've agreed to write my memoir. um, I've been threatening to do it for a long time. People keep saying, you got to write your story, you got to write your book about, your whole life. But it's been daunting because I feel like I've lived almost like 10 lives already. There's just so many different things I've done. And it's like, where do you,
anthology.
what's that?
It could be an anthology. It doesn't need to be one book.
Oh my God, so, but no, I've agreed to do a memoir. I'm working with a team who is helping to guide me through that whole process. I've started writing it, and it is going to be my entire life up till now, all the life in Australia as a young kid, then moving over to Canada, coming over on a boat with 2,000 Australian teachers because there was a shortage of teachers in Canada that year, and Trudeau, the
There still
CEO,
is. I just quit this year.
come to Canada, which is interesting. That who would think that years later, little Lenore would be then working with his son in Parliament, right?
Oh, that's so wild.
Yeah, yeah. So so it starts there, and then it goes through all the acting and all of that, getting into acting, playing Marilyn Monroe out in Edmonton at the Citadel Theater, being sexually harassed by the director who was like constantly harassing me and calling me up, telling me he missed me and what was I wearing and all this stuff. It was awful.
Gross.
I had to really protect
Terrible.
myself. I was only 19.
Ugh.
19. Truro, Nova Scotia, playing Marilyn Monroe in a rock opera on the life of Marilyn Monroe, and this was going on behind the scenes. But so there's all that in there, and then the show was a big hit. It started my film career, and then then there's a long time traveling around the world, different countries, going to the States, New York, doing shows off Broadway, Hollywood, going to Hollywood for the first time, going to the underbelly of Hollywood with the gay community. I mean, you
I
can't
think
make
we
this
need a
up.
movie.
Yeah, well, I think let's do the book and then we'll do the movie.
Okay,
How's that?
all right. I'll take both. I'll take more, as much content as I can get.
And then we have to figure out who'll play me. I think the young blonde actress that was in Black Widow with Scarlett Johansson would be good. What's her name?
Yelena Belova.
Oh
Sorry, I
my
mean Florence
goodness.
Pugh.
Oh my
Florence
goodness,
Pugh.
Florence Pugh. I
Yeah,
would.
you.
That is.
With
Call the studios right now. I'm on board. Take my money.
I don't even know how old she is, but I saw her and I was like, wow, she really reminds me of me when I was younger. But yeah, yeah,
Oh, that would be incredible. Wow.
right. And then of course, and then my character goes to Parliament. Like then you go to Parliament and you're shaking the system up for 12 years, and then bang, you go back into being a superhero again. So
Did you ever stop being a superhero? I don't think so.
thank you. I appreciate that. Well, if you set your sights to the stars, you may get to the moon. So
That's true. That's absolutely true, and very inspirational. Very inspirational.
I always go for as much as I can, knowing that I may not get there, but if you don't aim for it, you won't get there. You won't go. You won't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Right?
You're not getting there either way, so you might as well aim as far as you can go
Exactly.
and just shoot for it.
Right. And if anyone tries to make fun of you and say, "Oh, what are you doing that for? You're crazy. You'll never do that." Tell them to shut up. You're doing it anyway. Thank you for the support.
I love that. I love that. And that's kind of what we here, Agents of Fandom, do. That's how we started and have grown our community, and we really feel like we have a lot of people to not let down now, and
Right.
that's what drives us to reach out to folks on Twitter and randomly set up interviews. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and when it does, we get amazing things like this, a truly heartwarming, inspirational conversation that a lot of people might not know they need to hear it, but listen to it, and it helps.
Yeah, that's good because, I think part of the reason why Rogue speaks to me and why I feel like I am meant to play her and why I'm good at playing her is because I have been through a lot of challenges in my life, and I have gone through peaks and valleys. I mean, that's what life is, right? Life is a roller coaster, and you kind of have to learn to hang on no matter what and not give up. And that's like Rogue. Rogue has to go through that. And without telling any stories out of line, she's going to be going through a lot in the episodes that you're going to see to come. So for me, an honor and a pleasure to be able to put all the stuff I've been through into my work as the character of Rogue.
Well, it
Something
shines
that
through on the
Rogue
other side.
Absolutely. Something that Rogue embodies so well that you clearly do as well is perseverance. And you mentioned no matter who tells you you can't do it,
Mm-hmm.
you set your sights above it and you take the shot anyways. And I think something that a lot of people struggle with is, well, what is step one? Where do I begin? And so something that we are working on, and as we launch our newer adapted version of our website in the future, it's going to become even more of a focus for us, is our organization called the Agents of Change. And our primary focus is empowerment. We all have different causes that are important to us, none less important than the other, whether it be the LGBTQ plus community, feminism, racism, anything from an anti-oppressive standpoint in a fight for equity. Our goal is empowerment. Step one,
Yeah.
what can you do?
Yeah.
Where can you find the outlets that you need to go? And so as we begin some boots on the ground kind of initiatives, we'd love to do some more collaboration with you in the future.
Absolutely. That's kind of like what I'm all about, really, and reconciliation as well, right? With indigenous peoples. That's a big one.
Absolutely.
I think also trying to, open people's minds and educate colonial descendants uh, about why reconciliation is so important, and how the folks that say, well, I didn't do that to them, that was a long time ago, we've got nothing to do with it, that not our fault. Yeah, but your forefathers and mothers did, and we got rich off of enslaved people and indigenous people who were taken from their lands and put in little tiny pots here and there and told you can't leave, and all the resources were used by our forefathers and mothers to enrich themselves and therefore us. So, there has to come a reckoning. There has to come a time when we all say, okay, this wasn't right. We did wrong and we want to fix it. We want to make it okay, and we want to live in peace and harmony with each other. That's so important.
They're busy upstairs right now as we speak, but my wife is a Métis educator here in Saskatoon.
Oh,
Her mom, Dr. Melanie Griffith Bryce, is the Gabriel Dumont Research Chair in Michif and Métis education at the University of Regina.
wow.
Um, and
Fantastic.
so we may have to set some type of collaboration up here in the future. They're busy right now. They're currently packing to go to Stratford, Ontario, where they're going to see my sister-in-law, Kat McLean, who is a Indigenous two-spirited actor who's performing at the Stratford Festival there.
Oh,
She's wildly talented,
Yeah.
and all three are huge X-Men the animated series fans, so they're going to be excited to watch this back.
what show is your relative doing at Stratford?
I will have to double check right now, but Garrett, if you can hold a question for me here, I'm gonna
Yeah.
yell upstairs quick and find out.
Yeah, absolutely go do that. I
Disappear for a bit and come back.
it's I'm glad that he brought that up, because I know, you know, the pride of the indigenous people in Canada is very important to him, because that's his
Yeah.
family, and that's something that I got to learn so much about when I was up there. Even just for, I was only up there for a couple days for his wedding, but just being with Ava and her family, and just sitting and listening and learning about a lot of stuff was just so enlightening to me. And it's just it's how could you not be behind this cause? Oh, there she is.
Right. Right. Oh, hello.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, sugar.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
amazing.
So Ava will do a much better job explaining what the play is than I will, but
Okay.
here it is.
Yeah, so this is the second year my sister's been at the Stratford Festival, and so the play that they're in, it's them and then a few other people acting as kids who are residential school attenders,
Okay.
and they're putting on the plot is that they're putting on a Shakespearean play for Queen Elizabeth to come and basically see how are the kids doing at the schools. So they put on a
Right.
play to say this, we're doing great. But
Yeah.
then the queen doesn't end up coming, because that was also part of in 1939. That's what it's called, and that's what happened. Like the schools were all prepped, and then she didn't end up coming.
Oh no, really? So it's a true story. Oh, based on a true story.
Well, yeah, and actually the director is Janny Lazan, and so she
Oh,
wrote it
I
as
know
well.
Janny. I know Janny very
Oh,
well.
really?
Yeah, yeah, from a long time ago.
Last
Oh,
year,
yeah.
Kathleen and Janny were in Red Sisters together.
Okay, great. I saw that one years ago. I think a friend of mine, a Mi'kmaq actor from Nova Scotia, is in that play too. Gordon White. When you go
Oh,
there,
okay.
he's great. He's wonderful.
Okay, it's a fairly small cast, so I
Yeah,
usually it's so nice. Kathleen so welcoming. I usually get to meet the people, so
yeah.
I'll have to
I
say
think,
hi.
yeah, he's there. He's been there a couple of years now, as well. So
I'd say it really truly is a small world.
it is, and especially in the acting community too.
Yes.
When you're living in New York, you know a lot of people and you get connected. And in Canada, it's kind of like it's more spread out, but
Yeah.
we all kind of know each other.
I love
That's
But
that.
yeah,
amazing.
thank you for the work you're doing too. That sounds very important work. Really
You're
important.
teaching.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yes. Ava is very, very good at what she does. She is
oh,
a
thank
true
you.
teaching soul, like not just in the classroom, but like even when I was there, she's just such a helpful individual, and she does it in a way that it comes across so like genuine and natural, not
Yeah.
like I'm forcing you to do something. So I wish I wish I could have been in your class, Ava. I miss you.
Aw,
And you're
that's so
teaching about
sweet.
Métis culture as well?
Yeah. So like I'm Michif, and that's from my mom's side. So it's
Right.
just it's more of just sort of bringing in the identity piece and then
Yeah.
own family
Sure.
stories. And so we just had Truth and Reconciliation Day, so it was a really hard day, but a really good day to share
Right.
stories.
Yeah. Is
Yeah.
it it's Aboriginal Indigenous is it Indigenous month right now?
Well, technically, we actually celebrate in June.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
Interesting.
they
There
did
is
do
one
like
here.
in the
Right.
States they kind of replaced Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day, but we actually
Right.
celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day on June 21st.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Um yeah, actually I was on the Indigenous and Northern Affairs Committee with the federal government there for a couple of years, which was very interesting. Found out so much about what's going on right across the country in indigenous
Very cool.
communities, and making sure like food security and things like
Hmm.
this is so important, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
amazing.
Like it's in northern Saskatchewan, like the amount of health issues that just come from the lack of access to like healthy food just
Yes.
because everything
Right.
has to be shipped up there. It's
Yes,
crazy.
exactly. Yeah, that's what we were learning about. And then I also introduced a bill, a private members bill. That's a cutie. I introduced a private members bill that is now back going through the House again, called
Wow.
a national strategy to address environmental racism and environmental justice. And
Wow.
it's about the number of toxic polluters, dumps, waste sites, toxic waste sites, landfills, and corporate polluters that are placed on or beside racialized communities, in particular
Hmm.
indigenous communities and black communities.
That
And
is
Wow.
so huge.
yeah, and so it would put into legislation the fact that it should be a human right for everybody to have clean air and clean water in Canada. So,
Wow.
Absolutely. Another
Incredible
part of
work.
that was that they actually did a little bit of a statistical study, and when there is something like mining happening near an indigenous community,
yeah.
the numbers for missing and murdered indigenous women, children, and two-spirit people drastically go up. And so
Mm,
they're looking at that part of it, being
Wow.
environmental racism, but also
right.
just like those pure numbers on those statistics, like that's it's shocking, but like
Yeah.
it's what's happening.
Well, they say that with the work camps, right, where it's just all men and they're all together, and what can happen sometimes when they're away from home for a long time. And yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Ugh, that's
I've heard
horrible.
about. Oh, yeah. But no,
Yeah.
I think we're making the right steps forward. Sometimes change takes so long,
Hmm.
but sometimes
But
it
it's
feels like
happening.
it's minuscule, but it is happening. And
Hmm.
I'm glad to see it happening. And I'm glad that we're doing it here in Canada. I think every country needs to do it, really, wherever there were indigenous peoples. The states needs to do a lot more too.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah.
CJ is in chat right now when we're asking if you can move to Cincinnati and become his favorite politician.
Uh, it was that a he? Who was it
He
again?
CJ. He's one of our writers at the Agents of Fandom.
Oh, okay. Well, tell CJ. CJ, I actually was in Cincinnati for some time. At one point I was married. I was married a couple of times, and one of the times one of my husbands was working in Cincinnati, so I actually got to spend some time there. It's beautiful. Loved it. Yeah, really
So there's
loved
hope, CJ.
it.
It wasn't a direct no.
No, it wasn't a
Well,
direct.
I'm
No,
I'm
never know.
I'm so happy that I got to meet you and have such a good chat with you, and I won't take up any
Me
more of your time.
too.
But it was so nice to meet you, and also hi
Thank
Emma,
you.
and hi CJ, and take care.
And hi, Garrett.
And hi, Garrett. Yes, of course. She was just referencing the people she
I
saw
know,
talking
I
in the
know,
chat.
I know.
But CJ is our huge Gambit and Rogue fan, so hearing you say his name has been a big blast for him in the chat right now. He's going crazy.
He said my jaw is on the floor. So,
I hope we get to meet sometime.
uh-oh.
I'll be coming to Cincinnati, and you'll have to come meet me.
That's the GIF I kept posting on Twitter. It's Jubilee and Storm, where Storm goes, "Rogue has a certain way with men, Jubilee." It's just
and then she goes,
so great. Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
For high heels.
But I do very much hope we can meet in person and do more of these type of collabs and interviews when maybe after X-Men 97's out and you're allowed to talk about it. And then again, for some of these initiatives we've been talking about. I'm assuming that most of our followers will know where to find you because we've been reposting a lot of stuff lately. But just in case, if they're listening in podcast form or watching on YouTube tomorrow, where can the people find you on socials?
Usually either Twitter or Instagram. And I believe Instagram is at Lenore Zann, and Twitter is, I think, at Zann Lenore. Don't ask. I don't know. I think I just made them up.
We
on
get
the
it.
fly.
Mine are different
have
too.
been swapped. Yeah, it's some are available and some are not. It's tough, but
yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Not only are we huge X-Men fans, huge fans of yours, but like we have talked about, it's kind of our goal to take this next step with Agents of Change and start bettering our communities and doing what we can, because as my good pal Spidey says, with great power comes great responsibility. So thank you so much for doing this. This has been a dream come true.
So welcome. It's so nice to meet both of you. And CJ, I'll see ya.
Thank you so much. Right. And like I said, this will be available. You have a great one too. Like I said, this will be available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast tomorrow, and we'll be tweeting out all over our socials, Agents of Fandom, everywhere but Twitter at Agents Fandom. That will do it for this very special episode. We'll be back with another live show tomorrow talking She-Hulk, Andor, and Werewolf by Night. So make sure you all tune into that one as well. Thank you so much. Peace.
Peace.
Thank you. Bye.